I thought I had found my soulmate in Amanda. She was brilliant, ambitious, and I fell hard for her the moment we met at that tech conference. Our wedding in the Pacific Northwest was everything we dreamed of, and for 2 years we built what I believed was a partnership of equals. But something shifted when her college friends started visiting more frequently. I never imagined that one day I would overhear the words that would shatter my world and force me to reconsider everything. Before I share what happened that night, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and if you have ever felt taken for granted, hit that like button and subscribe to show your support. I grew up in Seattle with parents who worked tirelessly to give me and my brother Jack a good life. My father was a construction foreman who taught me the value of hard work, while my mother, an elementary school teacher, instilled in me the importance of empathy and kindness. Though I was not the most confident kid in high school, more comfortable with computers than conversation, I found my stride in college. At Washington State University, I majored in computer science and gradually came out of my shell. The digital world made sense to me in ways that human interaction sometimes did not, but I was learning. By graduation, I had secured a job at a promising tech startup, and within 5 years I had worked my way up to senior software engineer at one of the largest tech companies in the Pacific Northwest. My friends often joked that I was too nice for my own good. In previous relationships, I had been the guy who would drive 40 minutes to bring soup when a girlfriend was sick, or spend hours helping with a project that was not mine. My brother Jack would occasionally pull me aside and say, "Cooper, you cannot keep putting yourself last." But I valued being supportive. I saw it as a strength, not a weakness. I dated casually through my 20s, nothing serious, until Amanda. There were women who appreciated my attentiveness, and others who seemed to take advantage of it. But I believed the right relationship would be balanced, a partnership where both people lifted each other up. I was willing to wait for that. Amanda and I met at an after-party following a major tech conference in downtown Seattle. She was working in marketing for a competitor company, and we were introduced by a mutual colleague who thought we might hit it off professionally. She stood out immediately, not just because of her striking looks with auburn hair and confident stance, but because of the way she commanded attention when she spoke about digital marketing trends. "The problem with most tech companies," she said, gesturing with her whiskey glass, "is that they think innovation sells itself. It does not." I was impressed by her insights and the way she could break down complex ideas into compelling narratives. When I mentioned a new project I was working on, she asked thoughtful questions that showed genuine interest. We exchanged business cards ostensibly for professional reasons, but I texted her the next day to invite her for coffee. Our first date stretched from coffee to dinner, as we discovered shared passions for hiking, independent films, and ambitious career goals. Amanda was working toward becoming a marketing director before 35, and I admired her drive. She seemed equally impressed by my work developing accessibility software to help visually impaired users. "That is actually making a difference," she said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. "Most guys I date just want to create the next mindless app that makes millions." Over the next 6 months, we grew closer. I took her to my favorite trails in the Olympic Peninsula, and she introduced me to underground jazz clubs I never knew existed. We challenged each other intellectually and supported each other's ambitions. When she was preparing a major presentation, I would listen to her practice until midnight. When I was debugging a particularly frustrating piece of code, she would bring dinner to my apartment and give me space to work. Jack met her after we had been dating for 3 months. "She is impressive," he said afterward. "Just make sure you are not doing all the giving." I laughed off his concern. Amanda and I felt like equals, both successful in our fields, both bringing unique strengths to our relationship. After a year of dating, I proposed during a sunrise hike at Mount Rainier. I had carried the ring in my backpack, terrified of dropping it off the mountain, and asked her as the first light turned the snow pink. She said yes immediately, and we celebrated with hot chocolate from a thermos I had packed. "We are going to build an amazing life," she promised, and I believed her completely. We were married in a ceremony at a rustic lodge overlooking Puget Sound, surrounded by 150 friends and family. Amanda looked stunning in a sleek, modern dress, and I remember fighting back tears as we exchanged vows. At the reception, her maid of honor toasted our perfect match, Amanda with her vision and Cooper with his steadfast support. I did not think much about that wording at the time. After a honeymoon in New Zealand, we returned to Seattle and bought our first home together in Kirkland, a modest 3-bedroom with a view of the lake. We converted the smallest bedroom into a home office we would share, though in practice, Amanda used it most often while I worked at the dining table. Those first 2 years of marriage fulfilled all my hopes. We were building careers we cared about while creating a life together. I took pride in being a supportive husband, cooking meals when Amanda worked late, handling most household repairs, and being her sounding board for work challenges. She showed her appreciation with thoughtful gifts and planning occasional weekend getaways to recharge. Our division of household responsibilities initially seemed fair. Amanda handled our social calendar and most of the shopping. I took care of cooking, yard work, and most cleaning. We both contributed financially, with roughly equal salaries that we partially combined while maintaining separate accounts for personal spending. I remember thinking how lucky we were compared to other couples who seemed to struggle with basic communication and trust. We had date nights every Friday, hiking excursions on Sundays, and what I thought was honest communication about our needs and dreams. "We are crushing this marriage thing," Amanda said on our second anniversary as we clinked glasses at our favorite restaurant. I could not have agreed more. The shift began gradually, after Amanda received a significant promotion to marketing director at her company, achieving her goal 2 years ahead of schedule. I was genuinely thrilled for her, organizing a surprise celebration with our friends and gifting her a designer watch I had saved for months to purchase. Her new position came with increased responsibilities and a new social circle, primarily ambitious women in similar roles across the industry. They started having monthly girls' nights, which seemed perfectly reasonable. Amanda would come home energized from these evenings, talking about industry insights, and sometimes playfully comparing our relationship to her friends' more problematic partnerships. "Sophia's husband forgot their anniversary again," she would say. "I told her she should have married someone thoughtful like you." These comments made me feel valued initially. But over time, the girls' nights increased from monthly to weekly, then to multiple evenings a week. Amanda would come home later each time, sometimes tipsy, leaving me to handle more household responsibilities. I did not mind stepping up. Her career was taking off, and I wanted to support her success. Around 6 months after her promotion, I noticed the first troubling comments. We were hosting a dinner party when Amanda interrupted my story about a coding challenge. "Cooper tends to ramble about his computer stuff," she said to our guests with a laugh. "I will translate into human language." Our friends chuckled awkwardly. I felt a sting of embarrassment but brushed it off. Later that week, when I mentioned feeling dismissed, Amanda sighed. "You are being too sensitive. It was just a joke." Maybe she was right. I had always been told I could be overly earnest. Still, something felt off about her tone. There was an edge that had not been there before. More incidents followed. When I cooked her favorite pasta dish after she had a difficult day, she commented that the sauce was a little bland, before picking at it and ultimately ordering takeout. When I cleaned the house before her parents visited, she redid several of my efforts, explaining, "Men just do not notice the details, do they?" Each time I felt uncomfortable, I would question myself. Was I being too sensitive? Was I failing to meet some standard? I began to doubt my perceptions, working harder to anticipate her needs and avoid criticism. One evening, I overheard her on the phone with a friend. "Yeah, I have to spell everything out for him," she said with a sigh. "But he is sweet, and he tries." The condescension in her voice was unmistakable. When I mentioned it later, she accused me of eavesdropping and twisted the conversation to make it seem like I was the problem. I felt the first real tremor of unease in our foundation, but I pushed it down, focusing instead on how I could be a better husband. As months passed, the imbalance in our relationship grew more pronounced. My workload at the tech company increased, as we prepared for a major product launch, often requiring 50 or 60-hour weeks. Despite this, I was still handling most household duties: cooking, cleaning, laundry, yard work, and home maintenance. Amanda rarely acknowledged these efforts. Instead, her criticism became more frequent and pointed. My cooking was too basic or too experimental. The way I folded towels was inefficient. The yard needed more attention despite my working weekends to complete the software project. "How hard is it to get this right?" she would say, rearranging the dishwasher I had loaded. "Sometimes I wonder if you are being careless on purpose." Her friends became fixtures in our home, often arriving without notice. I would return from work to find 4 or 5 women in our living room, with wine bottles and takeout containers scattered about. Amanda never consulted me about these impromptu gatherings, and I was expected to either join pleasantly or make myself scarce, usually after cleaning up the kitchen so they could use the space. When I tried to discuss feeling sidelined in our home, Amanda had a talent for deflecting. "Are you saying I cannot have friends over? Is this about controlling me?" "Of course not," I would backpedal. "I just wish I knew in advance." "You are so rigid with planning," she would respond with exasperation. "That is why you need me, to bring spontaneity into your life." Conversations like these left me feeling confused, and somehow in the wrong, for expressing basic needs. I began to withdraw from my own friends, partly because I was exhausted from maintaining our home and relationship, and partly because social gatherings now made me anxious. Would I say something wrong? Was I being too sensitive? Too demanding? Too boring? My brother Jack noticed the change in me when we met for our monthly beer. "You look tired, Coop." Everything okay with Amanda? I downplayed my concerns, not wanting to seem like a complainer. But Jack saw through it. "Remember when we were kids, and you would let me win at video games because you thought it would make me happy? You are still doing that, but with your whole life now." His words hit home, but I was not ready to face their implications. 8 months after Amanda's promotion, the financial strain began to show. While our salaries were comparable, our spending had become wildly imbalanced. Amanda's new position came with unspoken expectations. Designer clothing, regular salon appointments, networking dinners, and weekend retreats with colleagues. I supported her career advancement and understood some expenses were investments in her professional growth. But when I reviewed our joint account, I discovered I was contributing 70% to our shared expenses despite our agreement to split costs evenly. "I thought we could discuss the household budget," I said one evening, spreadsheet ready on my laptop. "Things seem a little uneven lately." Amanda's expression hardened. "Are you counting pennies now? I thought we were building a life together, not nickel and diming each other." "It is not about pennies," I explained. "Last month I covered the mortgage, utilities, groceries, and most dinners out. Your contribution was less than a third of our expenses." "Well, I bought that new couch you love," she countered. The couch I had actually opposed as too expensive but had been overruled. "That was from our joint savings," I reminded her. "Fine. I have been investing in my career. These are the costs of moving up in the marketing world. If you want me to apologize for being ambitious, it is not going to happen." The conversation devolved from there, with Amanda eventually leaving to meet friends, claiming she could not deal with this negativity. A week later, I discovered credit card statements she had hidden, showing over $15,000 in debt accumulated over the past year on luxury items and extravagant nights out with her friends. When confronted, she broke down in tears, claiming the pressure of her new position was causing her anxiety and shopping helped her cope. I comforted her and offered to help create a repayment plan. Looking back, I see how I had become her financial safety net rather than her partner. But at the time, I was still trying to be understanding and supportive, believing this was just a rough patch we would work through together. The public humiliation began subtly, but escalated quickly. At a company picnic, Amanda introduced me to her new boss by saying, "This is Cooper. He writes code or something. I never really understand what he does all day." Her laugh suggested it was a joke, but the dismissiveness was clear. Then came a dinner with her colleagues, where she interrupted my conversation with her company's IT director about a mutual professional interest. "Cooper thinks he is an expert on everything tech-related," she said with a smirk. "He will talk your ear off if you let him." I fell silent, embarrassed. Later that evening, her colleague whispered, "My wife does that sometimes too. Just hang in there, man." The most painful incident occurred during a dinner party we hosted for both our colleagues. I had taken the day off to prepare an elaborate meal, cleaning the house meticulously, and even buying new serving dishes Amanda had wanted. As I was describing a major project I had recently completed, one that had earned me recognition within my company, Amanda cut in. "Cooper exaggerates. His team did the heavy lifting while he mostly attended meetings." The table fell awkwardly silent. My accomplishment, leading development of accessibility features that had been praised in industry publications, was dismissed and diminished in seconds. What hurt most was how untrue her characterization was. I had worked 60-hour weeks for months, often writing code late into the night to meet deadlines. My brother Jack, who was at the dinner, shot me a concerned look. After the guests left, he stayed behind to help clean up. "What was that about?" he asked, when Amanda was upstairs. "That comment about your project was way out of line." I made excuses, claiming Amanda had been stressed and drinking too much, but Jack was not buying it. "This is not the first time I have seen her do this. You deserve better, Cooper." When I later tried to discuss the incident with Amanda, she turned it around on me. "You were boring everyone with technical details." I was saving the conversation. "It was a significant achievement in my career," I said. "I worked hard on that project." "Oh, please, you write code. It is not like you are curing cancer. That is not fair. My work matters too." "You are being ridiculous," she said with finality. I was just lightening the mood. "Everyone thought you were being pretentious." I found myself apologizing somehow for being proud of my work. Later that night, I lay awake questioning my own perceptions. Was I the problem? Was I truly as boring, incompetent, and pretentious as Amanda suggested? Depression began to take hold, along with growing self-doubt that affected my work and sense of self-worth. The breaking point came unexpectedly, on a Thursday in October. I had been on a 3-day business trip to San Francisco and caught an earlier flight home, planning to surprise Amanda with takeout from her favorite Thai restaurant. As I pulled into our driveway, around 7:30 in the evening, I noticed several unfamiliar cars parked outside. Amanda had not mentioned having company. Not wanting to interrupt if it was a work gathering, I entered quietly through the side door that led directly into the kitchen. I heard laughter from the living room, Amanda, and what sounded like 4 or 5 women. I was about to announce my presence when I heard my name. "Cooper is the perfect husband on paper," Amanda was saying, her words slightly slurred. "Steady job, never complains, handles the house. But my God, the neediness is exhausting. He actually got upset when I dismissed his little computer project." Her friends laughed, and another voice chimed in. "At least he cooks and cleans. Jason would never." "Oh, that is the best part," Amanda continued, her voice taking on a mocking tone. "Girls, this is my personal doormat. He does whatever I want. I have him so well trained that he apologizes when I insult him." The roar of laughter that followed hit me like physical pain. I stood frozen in the kitchen takeout bags, growing cold in my hands. "And the sad puppy eyes when I come home late," Amanda continued. "Like I am going to rush back to hear about JavaScript or whatever he rambles about." "Is he at least good in bed?" someone asked, triggering another round of laughter. "Let us just say I have had better," Amanda replied. "But he tries so hard, poor thing. It is like having an eager golden retriever." My ears were ringing. The room seemed to tilt sideways. I felt physically ill, a cold sweat breaking out across my skin as 7 years of love and trust collapsed around me. Every doubt, every moment of confusion suddenly crystallized into perfect clarity. This was not a momentary lapse, or an isolated incident. This was who she really was, how she truly saw me. I set the food down silently and walked back out the side door without being noticed. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, my knuckles white, my breath coming in short gasps. The shock was so profound that tears would not even come. Just a hollow, aching void where my heart should have been. I drove to a hotel near the airport, checked in mechanically, and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. My phone vibrated with a text from Amanda. "Working late, do not wait up." Another lie in a relationship that I now realized had been built on deception, not just of me, but of myself. For 3 days I stayed in that hotel, not answering Amanda's increasingly concerned texts and calls. I needed clarity before confrontation. The shock gave way to grief, then to cold analysis. I reviewed our relationship, methodically recognizing patterns I had willfully ignored. On the first day, I focused on documenting our financial entanglements. I created spreadsheets, detailing our contributions to shared expenses, savings, and assets. The numbers confirmed what I already knew. I had been carrying us financially while Amanda enjoyed the lifestyle her salary alone could not sustain. On the second day, I made 2 important calls. The first was to a therapist recommended by my company's employee assistance program who agreed to see me that afternoon. The second was to an attorney, specializing in divorce. The therapist, Dr. Melissa Chen, listened without judgment as I recounted Amanda's words and the years leading up to them. Her question was simple but profound. "Cooper, if a friend told you this story about their marriage, what would you advise them to do?" The answer was immediate and clear. No one deserved to be treated this way. The attorney outlined my options and the process ahead. Washington being a community property state, our assets would be divided equally regardless of contribution. I was advised to document everything and prepare for potential conflict. On the third day, I reached out to Jack. He came to the hotel, immediately, relief evident on his face. "I have been worried sick," he said, pulling me into a hug. "Amanda called saying you disappeared." I told him everything. The doormat comment, the laughter, the years of dismissal and disrespect. "I could kill her," he said, his hands clenching. "I knew something was off, but this... I need to handle this my way," I told him. Calmly, clearly. Jack nodded, understanding. "What do you need from me?" "A place to stay for a while," I said. "And someone to remind me I am not crazy when she tries to convince me I am." "You got it," he promised. "Whatever you need, however long it takes." That evening, I called 2 old friends I had neglected during my marriage. Their immediate offers of support reminded me that I had a life and connections outside of Amanda. Somehow I had forgotten that. By the third night, the shock had settled into resolve. I was not angry anymore, just clear-eyed and determined. I deserved better, and I was going to reclaim my dignity, my finances, and my future. On Sunday evening, I returned to our home in Kirkland. Amanda's car was in the driveway and lights blazed from every room, unusual for her environmental consciousness. She must have been keeping the house fully lit in case I returned. I used my key and stepped into the entryway. Amanda appeared from the living room, her expression cycling rapidly, from relief to anger to calculated concern. "Where have you been?" she demanded then, immediately softened her tone. "I've been worried sick. I called hospitals, I called your work. We need to talk," I said calmly, moving past her to the dining room table. "Please sit down." Something in my tone must have registered because she followed without protest. I placed a folder on the table between us. "3 nights ago, I came home early to surprise you." I began, my voice steady. "I heard what you said to your friends about me, about your personal doormat." Her face paled, but she recovered quickly. "You were eavesdropping. That is your big accusation. I am not making accusations. I am stating facts. I heard you mock me, our marriage and my career, to entertain your friends." "It was just girls talking," she said dismissively. "We all vent about our partners. It does not mean anything." "It meant something to me," I replied. "But that moment just confirmed what has been happening for years. This relationship is fundamentally unbalanced and unhealthy." I opened the folder and slid across a spreadsheet detailing our financial contributions. For the past 2 years, I have covered 70% of our joint expenses, despite our agreement to split them equally. I have taken on 90% of household labor despite us both working full-time. "Are you seriously nickel and diming our marriage right now?" she asked incredulously. "No, I am showing evidence of a pattern. You take, I give. You dismiss, I accommodate. You mock, I absorb." Her strategy shifted to tears. "I do not understand where this is coming from. If you were unhappy, why didn't you say something? We could work on this in counseling." "I did say something. Many times. You dismissed my concerns, made me question my perceptions, and twisted situations to make me the problem. I kept my voice neutral, factual. And counseling only works when both people respect each other. You don't respect me. You said it yourself. I am your doormat." The tears vanished, replaced by cold anger. "So what, you are leaving because of one comment?" "I am leaving because I finally see our relationship clearly. I am wiping my feet and walking away." Her laugh was bitter. "Dramatic much. Where will you even go?" "I am staying with Jack for now. I will be back tomorrow with movers for my personal belongings. I suggest you find a lawyer." I slid a second paper across the table, the name of my attorney. "You cannot be serious," she said, but I could see the realization dawning that I was not backing down. "I have never been more serious," I replied, standing up. "I deserve a partner who values me, not someone who mocks me behind my back." "The divorce papers will be filed this week." As I turned to leave, she called after me, her voice suddenly small. "Cooper, please. I am sorry. We can fix this." I paused at the door. "No, Amanda. Some things cannot be fixed once they are broken. Trust is one of them." I walked out of our house for the last time as her husband, feeling a strange mixture of grief and liberation. The hardest step was already behind me. The weeks that followed were challenging but clarifying. As expected, Amanda shifted between tactics, desperate apologies, vicious accusations, and calculated manipulation. She told mutual friends I was having a mental breakdown. She claimed I had been secretly planning to leave her for months. She threatened to ruin my professional reputation. I maintained a dignified silence publicly, while documenting every text, email, and voicemail for my attorney. I moved my essential belongings to Jack's spare room and placed the rest in storage. Our house would need to be sold as part of the divorce settlement, and I had no interest in fighting over furniture that held memories of a false relationship. Some friends inevitably took sides. Most of Amanda's circle closed ranks around her, though 2 reached out privately to express sympathy. "She talks about everyone that way," one confided, confirming my suspicions that her mockery extended beyond our marriage. My colleagues were supportive once I explained the situation minimally. Taking personal time during a separation was all most needed to hear, and my manager approved a flexible schedule while I reorganized my life. The hardest part was the temporary depression that settled over me. Despite knowing I had made the right decision, I mourned the loss of what I had believed we had. 7 years of memories were now tainted by the recognition that the partnership I treasured had been largely illusory. Sleep was difficult. Appetite vanished. I went through the motions at work but felt disconnected from everything. Jack worried enough to sit me down after 2 weeks of this fog. "You did the right thing," he insisted. "But you need to actually live, not just exist." He was right. I had escaped a toxic relationship but was still allowing it to consume me. The next day, I found a therapist, specializing in recovery from emotional abuse, and committed to weekly sessions. I also signed up for a coding boot camp I had been interested in for months, but had put off because Amanda thought it was a waste of time. Most importantly, I began reconnecting with myself. What did I actually enjoy? What goals had I set aside? Who was Cooper outside of Amanda's husband? Gradually, like thawing after a long winter, I began to rediscover joy. I returned to hiking, spending weekends exploring trails I had neglected for years. I joined a photography meetup, reviving a passion that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. I launched a side project coding an app to help hikers identify native plants, combining multiple interests into something creative and fulfilling. Dr. Chen, my therapist, helped me recognize the patterns of emotional manipulation that had eroded my self-confidence. We worked on setting healthy boundaries and trusting my perceptions again. She helped me understand that empathy and support were strengths, not weaknesses to be exploited. "The problem was never your kindness," she explained. "It was that you were giving it to someone who saw it as a resource to use, rather than a gift to cherish." 4 months after moving out, I found my own apartment. A modern one-bedroom, overlooking Lake Union, with large windows and minimal furnishings. I took pleasure in creating a space that reflected only my tastes and needs. No compromises, no criticisms, just choices that made me feel comfortable and at peace. At work, I refocused on my career with renewed energy. The accessibility project that Amanda had dismissed led to a speaking opportunity at a major tech conference. Standing on that stage, sharing innovations that would make technology more inclusive, I felt a confidence I had not experienced in years. My financial situation improved quickly, once I was no longer covering Amanda's excess spending. I built up savings, invested wisely, and even began planning a solo trip to Japan, something Amanda had vetoed as boring and too expensive. New friendships formed through meetups and professional events, connections based on genuine shared interests, rather than obligation. I was careful about dating, taking Dr. Chen's advice to heal fully before pursuing a new relationship. Still, I enjoyed casual coffee meetings and dinner conversations that reminded me I was capable of connection without caretaking. The divorce proceedings moved forward, steadily complicated slightly by Amanda's reluctance to sell the house. My attorney assured me this was temporary obstruction that would not prevail in court. I maintained my policy of minimal contact, communicating only through lawyers when necessary. 6 months after leaving, I was picking up coffee before work, when I heard someone call my name. Turning, I was surprised to see Tara, one of Amanda's closest friends from her work circle. She had been present the night of the doormat comment, though I had not heard her voice among those laughing. "Cooper, hi," she said, seeming genuinely pleased to see me. "Do you have a minute?" We sat at a corner table, an unexpected but not unwelcome reunion. "I owe you an apology," she began, catching me off guard. "I was there that night, and I did not speak up when I should have. The way Amanda talked about you was wrong." "Thank you for saying that," I replied, surprised by her candor. "There is something else you should know," Tara continued. "After you left, things changed in our friend group. Several of us distanced ourselves from Amanda when we saw how she handled the separation. The stories she told did not add up, and frankly we saw a side of her that made us uncomfortable." I nodded, unsure how to respond. "She is struggling at work," Tara added. "The promotion you supported her through. She is having trouble maintaining that position without." She paused, choosing her words carefully, "without the support system she had with you." "I am sorry to hear that," I said honestly. "Despite everything, I did not wish Amanda professional failure. Do not be. It is a consequence of her choices," Tara said firmly. "I wanted you to know that many of us respect how you handled everything. No public drama, no bad-mouthing. Just a clean break and moving forward with dignity." As we parted ways, Tara added one last comment. "You know she still has your photo on her desk. I think she truly did not realize what she had until it was gone." That conversation provided an unexpected sense of closure. I did not need validation from Amanda's circle, but Tara's words confirmed I had made the right choice in how I handled the split, with integrity and self-respect, rather than vengeance. A year after walking away from my marriage, my life had transformed in ways I could not have imagined that painful night in the kitchen. The divorce was finalized with the house sold and assets divided equitably. I had been promoted to technical lead at work, heading a team developing the next generation of accessibility tools. I had dated casually but intentionally, learning to recognize red flags I had previously ignored. There were coffee meetings that went nowhere, a brief connection with a graphic designer that fizzled after a month, and a few enjoyable evenings with a pediatrician whose schedule ultimately proved incompatible with mine. Each interaction taught me something about my needs and boundaries. Most significantly, my relationship with myself had healed. I no longer questioned my perceptions or apologized for taking up space. I recognized my value, not as a supporting character in someone else's story, but as the protagonist of my own life. Through my brother Jack, I was introduced to Sophia, a book editor with a quick wit and thoughtful nature. Our connection developed slowly and respectfully over shared meals and long conversations. Unlike my whirlwind courtship with Amanda, this relationship built gradually on a foundation of genuine mutual respect. When Sophia asked about my divorce, I shared the experience honestly but without bitterness. I learned that support should be reciprocal, I explained, and that love without respect is ultimately empty. She nodded understanding. My last relationship taught me similar lessons, just less dramatically, she said with a gentle smile. I think we appreciate healthier connections because we know the alternative. In an unexpected turn of events, I encountered Amanda at a mutual friend's wedding, 8 months after our divorce was finalized. She looked momentarily startled to see me, then approached with carefully casual confidence. "You look good, Cooper," she said, her eyes assessing my tailored suit and relaxed posture. "Thank you. You too," I replied politely. An awkward silence followed before she spoke again. "I heard about your promotion. Congratulations." "Thank you." "How are things at your company?" "Challenging," she admitted. "But I am figuring it out." I nodded, feeling no urge to either rescue or reject her. "I wish you well with that." As she turned to leave, she hesitated. "For what it is worth, I know I handled things badly. With us, with the divorce, with everything, really." It was as close to an apology as Amanda could manage. Acknowledgement without vulnerability. I accepted it for what it was. "We all make mistakes," I said simply. "The important thing is learning from them." Walking away from that